Alright guys, so before I get into the video today, we took the car out for its first road trip. I got all the mechanical stuff pretty much done with the car. It idles great, the PCV valve, and everything that you guys see me done, the exhaust leak, which you'll see today, fixed the idle problem, so it's idling great, it's running great. I put brand new tires on it, so we took this thing out to Ventura, California. Here we are out here at the top of a hill, and yeah, so from here on out I'm going to be doing some more cosmetic stuff on the car to try to get it looking as best as it can. What is up, Honda fans and vehicle lovers alike? I am back again with my 90s economy car that I love just a little bit too much, my 1998 Honda EX Civic Coupe. Today I want to talk about something that is commonly modified on Civics, but I don't think is always talked about when it comes to the options that are available to us. I want to talk about header and exhaust manifold options. Now, there's no doubt that a nice looking header on old 90s B and D series engines looks great. That was actually one of my favorite things when I first started getting into these cars. Even with the K series, I don't think that it compares to just a classic 90s engine bay with the header sticking out the front of the engine. It just looks so good to me. I don't know why that is, but let's get into it. I decided to do a video on exhaust manifolds because I'm having an issue with my exhaust manifold, which is unfortunate because this exhaust manifold is actually kind of special. I'm going to get more into that later in the video. But I'm going to go ahead and remove this exhaust manifold, show you guys the problem, and show you the differences with the exhaust manifold that I'm going to replace it with. Okay, so if you're ever going to work on any exhaust components of your car, I'd suggest at least using some WD-40 or any sort of penetrating oil. These ones are going to come off really easily because I just put a new gasket on here, which I thought was my problem, but it was not. So I thought I had an exhaust leak. Well, I know I have an exhaust leak. I thought it was coming from the exhaust manifold gasket, which I replaced, and that's when I discovered that there's actually a crack on my exhaust manifold. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it. I also forgot to mention that there are 3 bolts holding on your heat shield on your exhaust manifold. I was able to get this off by dropping it underneath. I've seen people pull it up from the top. One thing I did have to do is loosen these 2 bolts on my condenser bracket, and I was able to slip it off. One thing I would watch out for, however, not only do you have to disconnect your O2 sensor, which is right down here, but make sure that you are not rough on the wire when you pull out your heat shield cover. Okay, so from underneath the car, there's 2 bolts connecting to your catalytic converter. There's also going to be these 2 bolts right here. That is a bracket holding it. And then there's going to be one more bolt in front of your oil pan that's connected to the bottom of the exhaust manifold that you can almost get to from the top. Alright guys, so here is the cracks on my exhaust manifold. You can see it's got a huge one right there. If I flip it over, you can also see it has one right in the center right there, and also a smaller one right here. So this is why I'm pretty bummed out that this one is no good and I'm gonna have to use this one instead. So what's the difference? This one here is what I would call a 4 to 2 to 1, where you can see it has 2 coming together right here, the other 2 coming together right here, and there's actually 2 separate pipes that don't meet together until they're actually underneath the car. I'm not sure what model came with which exhaust manifold exactly, but I do know this is a 98 EX and this car's all stock. Usually EXs have a lot of the better stuff, including VTEC. This is the Y8 motor. Obviously the SI is the highest overall trim, but this one right here, in contrast, came off of a 94 DX. And as you can see, all four just lead into one right at the top. So I would say if you're looking for a little bit of extra power on your car, maybe you're doing a mini-me swap, maybe you're doing a Z6 or a Y8 swap in your car, I would definitely try to look for this one right here. I did find a replacement part for the top part of this manifold, so I do plan on putting this eventually back on my car. For now, I want to install this one just so I can get by until I'm able to get a replacement. But the link will be in the description for this one right here. I'm actually going to try to repair this, or actually have a friend, a welder friend of mine, try to repair this for me. It's pretty badly damaged, but I want to talk about working with cast iron a little bit. I wouldn't call myself a welder, but I do some MIG welding, and what I've been told by my welder friends is you do not want to MIG weld cast. It welds way too hot and you're just going to break apart the cast iron. So what you can do, what I've seen done, if you don't have a structural crack, maybe you just have a hairline crack, kind of like the one I showed you in the back center here. I've seen people braze brass. They actually just melt it down and it goes into the crack just to seal it. As far as I know, you have to use special rod and actually heat the cast iron up to a certain level and not allow it to cool too fast. But again, I'm not a welder, and if you're not a welder either, I definitely would suggest talking to another welder before you try any of this stuff yourself. Just my little disclaimer right there. I'm not going to be attempting to repair this myself. I'm going to try to take this to a professional, and if that can't be done, then I will be using the link in the description to buy another piece for the top of this. Now, if you do have a model that came with the all-in-one cat with the exhaust manifold piece, I would say that this could be a good option for you. You will have to get an extension for your second O2 sensor. But if you can find a donor car and off of an EX, presumably the EXs all are like this one for 96 to 2000, though I'm not sure about that. But if you can go to a junkyard and find a donor exhaust system where you can still stay legal depending on where you live at and the emission standards, then this could be a good option to get some extra horsepower, especially if you're trying to keep your car more OEM. If you like the OEM Plus look, I think this is definitely a good option. I've used DC replicas. I have one on my other car. I haven't had any exhaust leak problems with them. I hear people say that some of them rattle. I actually haven't experienced that. The problem I do run into with them is I've had smog techs tell me that they will not pass my car with that. So I'm actually going to be trying to get another one of these setups for my other car for smog reasons. But again, if that's not something that applies to where you live at, then I think the headers, like I said, they look great on the engines, and definitely you're going to get some extra horsepower with it. But I think if you're running an all-stock D series, this is a good way to upgrade over this one without really having to modify your car too much. You're probably not going to have any exhaust leak problems, and it keeps it basically OEM. Alright, so I got my exhaust manifold mounted back in place. Last thing that you want to check when you do any exhaust work is make sure that you're not creating more exhaust leaks than you had before you started. So I actually went and checked my Haynes manual. If you don't have one of these, I totally suggest them, especially if it's going to be a car that you plan on keeping for a while. I love forums, I love YouTube. They definitely have their place, but at some point you just need like a torque spec reference, and just a lot of the basic stuff that is going to be important when you're working on your car is just in these books. Save your money, buy a used one. The notes are basically just a bonus anyways. So I definitely suggest the manual. I did check forums. I got a few different answers, but referencing against this, someone did have the right answer at 23 foot-pounds, which is what you want to torque these down to. And that's super important, especially when you're dealing with something like aluminum. You could strip the thread so easily by putting too much torque down on it. So getting the right torque is super important. I'm gonna show how I torque it down. It's kind of like doing a head gasket job if you've ever done that before. It's gonna be center out. I have my exhaust manifold pretty much mounted back up. I actually set mine to 15. I don't know if you can see that. Set at 15 right now. Just because I like to snug it up before I actually tighten it to 23, which is the foot-pounds that it actually needs to be set at. All right, now that I have that torqued down to 15, it's all snugged up, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten it all the way to 23 foot-pounds. All right guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Pretty sure it's just a lot of the homies out there watching, so again, if you know who you are, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already for more Honda automobile content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.